Heavenly Father, we thank you today that you are sovereign. We thank you today, Almighty God, that you reign from everlasting to everlasting. And Father, you said in your word we should trust in you with all our hearts, and that we should not lean on our own understanding. In all our ways we should acknowledge you, and you would direct our path. Father, even as we prepare for this English workshop, I pray that by your Spirit you'll open the understanding of the teachers, Father, as they look at material and ways to bring knowledge to the children's mind, mighty God. Give them a heart, Lord God, of love, because I believe that when you do things with the heart of love, it goes much further. And so, God, I pray for knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, and the patience, mighty God, that as we impact these children's lives, we do it with your help and your guidance. By your Holy Spirit, infuse within us the love to pass on knowledge with love. And let everything be done to the glory and the honor of your name, Almighty God. For these and other mercies, we tell you thanks in Jesus' mighty name.
Good day, everyone. It's my absolute privilege and pleasure to welcome you to the 2024-25 series of City and Guilds workshops in Math and English. We are delighted that you have taken the time to join us today, and so we thank all the teachers, the heads of department, the many principals across the length and breadth of Jamaica who have supported us and who, more importantly, have stayed committed to us. We thank you so much. You know, we consider it an honor to be able to offer certifications, our certification in Math and English, to students here in Jamaica and in other territories of the region. We are just so very proud of all that we've been able to achieve, and we want to thank the government of Jamaica and in particular the Ministry of Education and Youth for their confidence in City and Guilds in allowing us to participate in the certification options for students here. We also thank our Chief Education Officer of Ministry of Education and Youth, Mrs. Terry-Ann Thomas Gale, who is bringing greetings for us this morning. And our presenters, of course, for Math and English. And it is my sincerest hope that you will benefit from the contents of this workshop. You know, we've been offering our tutorial workshops for many years, and they've proven to be very useful to teachers based on the feedback that we've got. This morning, I'm particularly pleased that we're joined by educators in other territories beyond Jamaica. And I'm speaking to our colleagues joining us from Barbados, from Bermuda, from the Bahamas, from the British Virgin Islands and the Cayman Islands. We're so very happy that you have come on board, and we look forward to serving you. I am humbled that for the last 20 years, it's been my joy to represent City and Guilds here in the Caribbean. And I thank each of you for your support, for your encouragement along the way. Of course, I've had too many birthdays, so it's time for me to step back. So this year, 24 to 25, is a year of transition. And we just continue to give God thanks in all things. You know, my personal motto is that gratitude unlocks the bounty of life. And I've lived it. So I'm so very pleased to be here with you. And we look forward to a wonderful, productive day.
So it's a new academic year. And we're at a new location. Actually, we're here in our boardroom, and it's my absolute delight to introduce you to our hardworking and dedicated team here at the City and Guilds Caribbean Rep Office.
Hello, my name is Ventley Brown, Chief Business Executive here at the City and Guilds Caribbean Representative Office. My specific responsibility entails managing over 200 high schools under the Ministry of Education's platform and portfolio. I wish for you all the best for the new school year and continue to believe you can.
Hi, my name is Brandon Chin. I'm the Administrative Manager I'm here to wish you a productive session and all the best for the upcoming school year.
Hi, my name is Denisa Benjamin Johnson, Senior Customer Service Officer. I provide world-class customer service to ensure that queries are readily addressed. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chantel Perkins, Senior Lead Operations Officer at the City and Guilds Rep Office. I ensure that your candidates are registered to sit our exams. I wish for you a successful academic year 2024-2025.
Good day, everyone. I am Carlisle Myers. I am the Senior Project Officer, for which I have direct oversight for the Skills Proficiency Awards and also Quality Assurance. I am wishing you a productive workshop and all the best for the new academic year. Blessings.
Hi, I am Rashid Reed, Business Development Officer here at the City and Guilds Caribbean Representative Office. My role includes, but is not limited to, the training and onboarding of new centers. Overall, I assist the team with achieving our goal to certify people across the region. I look forward to supporting you in academic year 2024 and beyond. Thank you.
Hi, good day. I'm Shan Sterling, the Marketing Exec for the City and Guilds Rep Office. I wish for you a productive year.
As is customary in our workshops, and with your permission, I'd like to share some slides about City and Guilds that I think you may find interesting. And for those of you who may have seen it already, there are some updates that I think you'll appreciate. So colleagues, we know that City and Guilds is a British exam body with headquarters in the UK. And here is our motto. The City and Guilds of London Institute is committed to developing the skills of people and organizations to secure their personal and economic growth and prosperity. Always are competence-based exams. And what is competence? It's the ability to perform a task or job successfully by using a combination of knowledge, skills, and attitude, and is measured against a standard. This ability can be acquired through experience and or training and potentially demonstrated by qualifications. And here are some facts about City and Guilds. At a glance, I won't be going through all of them, just a few. Although City and Guilds have some 500 plus qualifications that are on offer in the UK, they're not all available on the international market. And we here at the City and Guilds Rep Office, we work with City and Guilds International. Of course, we've been around since 1878, so you could say we've been around for a very long time. There are 83 countries in which City and Guilds is offered, and we have certified more than 30 million successful learners. And I just want to have a look at what I consider to be the key strengths of our City and Guilds qualifications. Progression. Our qualifications offer a clear progression pathway for learners. We take you all the way to the top from the entry level. Portability. Our qualifications act as a benchmark for skills globally and are widely recognized and respected. In other words, you can take City and Guilds with you wherever life should find you. And of course, aspirations. Each learner has hopes and dreams for themselves, for their careers, how they see themselves. And City and Guilds gives people the skills that will help equip them to reach their goals, whether that's getting a job, moving on to another job, moving into training, or even growing your own business. Recognition. City and Guilds are recognized throughout the world by educational institutions, professional bodies, and employer associations, which means that a City and Guilds certification can really open doors. And employability. Because they're developed with the help of industry experts and are workplace relevant, City and Guilds qualifications equip people for doing a real job, benefiting them and their employers. I want to have a look at our impact in the region. The Minister of Education and Youth in Jamaica engaged us for 3 separate contracts. Our most recent contract was signed in November 2019. It's a 10-year contract for the delivery of our math and English skills qualifications, the Skills Proficiency Award, customer service, and engineering. We've also been engaged with the Ministries of Education in Barbados, Bermuda, the Bahamas, and the British Virgin Islands, and the Cayman Islands. All these ministries are approved City and Guild centers, and they deliver our qualifications in math and English. We offer digital badges to successful candidates for each of these qualifications. And I want to just speak a bit about our expanded partnership with the Heart NSTA Trust, where we've delivered our Skills Proficiency Awards across all 16 occupational pathways. And to date, we have certified 7,300 Heart learners with our skills. Our certificate in employability skills was selected by the Office of the Prime Minister for the rollout of the LIFT program. It's a very interesting program of study comprising 10 modules that were specifically chosen to meet the objectives of the program. The initial cohort graduated in December 2023, and we're committed to training 500 learners each year. Our qualifications in math and English, of course, are also being offered in Heart academies across Jamaica. We have what we call an assured model, and which is usually referred to as accreditation. And we have 7 such private training providers whose programs of study are quality assured by us here in Jamaica, in the Bahamas, in the Cayman Islands, and in Trinidad. And these are our clients across the region. We are identifying with the flag of Barbados, where you will see the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, and all the schools that we serve listed. Trinidad and Tobago, you see their flag, and of course all the centers that we support, with Trinidad being our oldest client in Trinidad, where we've had a presence for some 6 decades. Bermuda, with the Ministry of Education, and there are the schools that are listed. In Grenada, with the Community College, and of course with St. Joseph's Convent. In the Bahamas, with the ministry itself, and of course the Technical Cadet Corps, also associated with the ministry, and we're so excited about our business opportunities in these territories. Then there's the Cayman Islands, where we are in partnership with the Department of Education, and of course the University College of the Cayman Islands, and Her Majesty's Cayman Prisons and others, with the British Virgin Islands, with Guyana, with Antigua, and of course here in Jamaica, where we partner with the Ministry of Education and Youth, and we serve some 200 secondary high schools. We partner with the Heart NSTA, and we serve their training academies across Jamaica, with Distinction College, with the United Career Assessment Services Institute, and others here in Jamaica. And here's the big picture. And to us it really is a big thing. We're so pleased to report that we have issued 208,000 certificates across our association with the Ministry of Education and Youth since 2011 to 2024. And I want us to have a look. What you're looking at here are the success rates in each year. So if you look at the calendar year 2024, for exams that were sat in June 2024, you're looking at 56% of the cohort having passed our math skills. And we're particularly proud of this. In particular, at a time in our region where there's so much focus and emphasis on math because of the disappointing performance with the regional exam. Our English, the performance came in at 74%. So the overall pass rate for the 30,000 plus registered candidates was 65%. And a little bit about our math and English. Of course, the presenters are going to go more in depth for each of these workshops, but our math and English are offered across 3 stages, with stage 3 being the highest and mapping closest with the regional CSEC. Importantly, each stage is a freestanding single subject with its own certification, so you don't need to start at stage 1 to move on to stage 2 to stage 3. Basically, we provide a diagnostic test that assesses, in our judgment, which is the best stage for a candidate to be registered, and the certification is within each of the stages. Math skills is assessed by a multiple choice paper that is set and marked in England. English skills is broken down into 2 modules. There is a written paper that is set and marked in London, the reading and writing, and then there is the speaking and listening, which is internally assessed, really an oral exam. We offer certificates of unit credit for each of the components, and for those successful candidates who achieve success in both, they receive an overarching certificate in English skills. We try harder. You know, our tagline is believe you can, believe you can. So each year we try and provide as much tutorial support as possible to ensure that our teachers and our students are well prepared. Our teachers properly supported to deliver, and our students well supported to succeed. So we offer these tutorial workshops, such as is happening today, in math, English, skills, and customer service. And for 2024, we're actually offering 3 face-to-face workshops here in Jamaica, which were planned for October. And these will be across the skill areas and in engineering. We offer student presentations here in Jamaica. And in the last academic year, we did 100 plus presentations to different schools across the length and breadth of our island. We provide tutorial materials, the syllabus, and specimen papers. In fact, we now have 13 sets of math and English papers that we share with you, which can be given to your students for practice. We offer training for registration via our walled garden, and all schools have access to Smart Screen, which is a tutorial platform that is so very useful. Textbooks are also available in math and English, and each year we provide a mock exam. So the June 2024 exam papers in math and English will be used as the mock exam papers in this academic year later on in 2025. With the support of the Ministry of Education here in Jamaica, we have achieved the following formal endorsements. Candidates with a Stage 3 qualification in Math and English are accepted for recruitment in the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the Jamaica Defence Force, the Ministry of the Public Services, and we have MOUs with the Jamaica Employers Federation. Our qualifications have been vetted and approved by the University Council of Jamaica. And there's more recognition. Several of our local universities, tertiary level entities, have recognized and will accept City and Guilds Stage 3 of Math and English for matriculation to certain undergraduate programs of study. We're pleased to say that the University of the West Indies is included in this group. I'd like to speak a little bit about our Skills Proficiency Awards, because this is really a unique assessment strategy. There is no written paper. So the assessment is via practical tasks, oral questions, and evidence by way of a portfolio under the oversight of a City and Guilds quality assurer. And here are the areas that we offer through the Ministry of Education and Youth: carpentry, electrical installation, fabrication, welding, and pipeworks, IT for office application, masonry, food and beverage, food preparation, plumbing, motorcycle repair, motor vehicle engineering, painting and decoration. So as I've just shared, this year we are so attuned to the importance of skill development that we are investing in 3 face-to-face workshops across Jamaica. One will be in Kingston, one will be in central Jamaica, and the other will be in the west. So we hope to be able to properly acquaint our TVET teachers with best practice in delivery of all of these pathways, as well as in making them more compliant with our quality assurance standards. Here is our performance. So in 2024, we had 94 schools participating, and we received registrations for 4,541 students. So overall, the certification rate, because it's just a pass or fail, is 71%. So we're pleased to say and to report to you that we've been able to improve our performance over this 3-year period of analysis, where we're coming from 59% in 2022 to 65% in 2023. And we're now pleased to say that we have broken the 70 percentile mark. We're at 71%. Customer service. This is such a wonderful and unique qualification. It's important to note that this qualification sits on the British qualification framework and is accredited by Ofqual. It is globally recognized. So we're offering it at 2 levels. Level 1, which is a certificate, and level 2 is diploma. And of course, we offer all the support materials to ensure effective delivery of this qualification. So just think about how badly we need good customer service, whether it be in school or across different industries, the tourism industry, banking, and of course the business process outsourcing. Here in Jamaica, staffing reports that some 50,000 Jamaicans are employed in the BPO sector. It's also needed in healthcare, in insurance, and just general client representation. We see this as such a critically important qualification in growing our economy, not just here in Jamaica, but in other territories across the region. And here is a performance analysis. So in 2022, we had only 2,570 candidates registered from our schools. And in 2024, it had grown to 7,335. But we've also improved tremendously on the certification rate, which means that our teachers are delivering more effectively. We're looking at a 41 percentile rate in 2022, 51% in 2023, and 64% in 2024, which was quite an improvement. Well done, teachers of Jamaica. Now, the Ministry of Education and Youth here in Jamaica did a relaunch in collaboration with City and Guilds in November of 2023. And there is a serious commitment to continue the work that was commenced just before the pandemic. So this qualification will now be offered through the Sixth Form Pathway Program in this academic year. The curriculum is delivered over a 2-year period, and it is ranked as a high-order STEM program of study. Certification is available from participating schools from level 1. And of course, at level 3, successful candidates achieve the designation of engineering technician, which facilitates post-nominal letters, EngTech. So far, some 28 principals have said that they're willing to come on board with engineering, and it is our hope to have a successful workshop face-to-face in October. Here is a look at the Engineering Learner Guide. So you will see that it's a journey Level 1 basically produces a trainee technician, but we can take you all the way to level 7 to become a chartered engineer. Of course, within our school system, we're only looking to offer levels 1, 2, and 3. Digital badging. All successful candidates for math and English, customer service and skills proficiency receive a paper certificate along with their digital badge. And we notice that students have been increasingly clamoring for their digital badges. So we're asking all our teachers to ensure that students have a professional email address. We know that while they're in school, they typically are assigned an email address with the school's domain. But we're suggesting that as they enter the adult world, you consider having them assume a professional email address, because this is their badge for life. They'll be able to produce it anywhere that they should be and at any time that they wish. So here we are. We look forward to hearing from you. We're at relocated offices here at the Trade Center on Red Hills Road in Kingston, Jamaica. We have new telephone numbers. You can also reach us via WhatsApp. We're all available to serve. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.
Colleagues, it is an honor to address you at the City and Guilds 2024 workshop series, focusing on critical areas such as mathematics, English, skills proficiency awards, customer service, and engineering. Today we gather not just to celebrate our achievements, but to chart a path forward for Jamaica's educational landscape. We must collaborate to ensure that our educational programs equip students with the competencies needed in today's dynamic market. I would like to highlight the recent collaboration between the MOEY and City and Guilds on the engineering qualification, which was launched in November 2023. Since then, 28 principals have expressed their commitment to integrating this curriculum into their sixth form pathways for this academic year. This initiative provides students with the opportunity to achieve the designation of engineering technicians at level 3 advanced diploma, allowing them to earn post-nominal letters that signify their qualification. City and Guilds have always been committed to excellence in vocational education and training. Their mission aligns seamlessly with the Ministry of Education and Youth's Transformation Education for National Development TREND initiative, particularly Pillar 3, which focuses on teaching, curriculum, and teacher training. Pillar 3 emphasizes the importance of empowering educators to create impactful learning experiences. This is a goal we wholeheartedly support and strive to achieve through our programs. By integrating City and Guilds internationally recognized certification and training standards, we can enhance the quality of vocational education in Jamaica, ensuring that our students not only prepare for local market, but also competitive on the global scale. As we move forward, it is essential that we place greater emphasis on preparing our students for oral assessments. These skills are vital for their future success in both academic and professional settings. Additionally, our nation requires a more skillful workforce to enhance productivity level across sectors. In the days ahead, we'll focus on refining our skills, exploring innovative teaching approaches, and sharing best practices to elevate our programs further. I encourage you to engage fully and ask questions and learn from the wealth of knowledge and experiences that this workshop series has to offer. Thank you for your commitment to this important mission. Let us work together to build a brighter future for all. Best wishes and a productive workshop.
We will now take a few endorsements from some of our principals.
My name is Wayne Robinson, and I'm the principal of Jamaica College. Jamaica College endorses the City and Guilds examinations and certification. We've been doing them for years. Our boys do, particularly we do mathematics and a number of other subject areas. We also do the on-demand subject areas throughout the year. And we think these exams are good options for our students to do. Again, we wish them all the best, and they have our support.
My name is Kelly Ann Barrett, and I am the Deputy Principal here at St. George Secondary School. St. George Secondary School fully endorses the City and Guilds examinations and certification. City and Guilds has provided the opportunity for so many of our students for certification in the English and mathematics skills at all 3 levels. We are so pleased with the partnership over the years that we are interested in increasing the number of subject offerings in our curriculum. We wish City and Guilds all the best and commend them on their efforts as we partner in the best interests of our children.
Good day. I'm Paul Hall, the principal of Tarrant High School. Today we want to talk about City and Guilds. Indeed, I consider it a very good exam in the sense that you have a wide cross-section of students. Students who can do CSEC, students who can do CAPE, and of course you have students who matriculate to City and Guilds. Because the truth is that City and Guilds, the exam is one which I find that it caters to the needs of all the students. So the students who are able to do CSEC are able to do City and Guilds. And that is, for me, is a positive. And so no student, I say, no student should leave an institution without having, what do you say, the basic in terms of educational standard. And so the City and Guilds offer that kind of, I just want to say, settings for them to be able to matriculate. So indeed, it is something that I think all schools should be involved with.
We are now going to get into the meat of the matter. With us today, we have our main presenters, Professor Carl Clark, retired Vice Principal at the Micro University College, and Teacher of English and External Quality Assurer, Miss Natisha Lindsay from St. Jago High School. Further into our presentation, we will also hear from some special guests as they give you tips on how to better deliver the City and Guilds English Skills curriculum to our students.
A warm welcome to all of us who are joining our City and Guilds English Skills Workshop 2024. Let me use this opportunity to welcome those who are joining us from the region and of course our Jamaican counterparts. We want to welcome also our administrators, our principals, our ministry officials, our teachers in the field, and especially those who are new to City and Guilds. We welcome, of course, our experienced teachers and everybody else who is part of this family of those who continue to empower our students. We are sure that you'll have a wonderful time today, and we'll begin by looking at what we hope to achieve. So we're going to be looking briefly at our objectives and our expectations. One of the first things we're going to be doing, we hope that you, at the end of this session, you should be able to do that, to familiarize yourselves with the syllabus and the format of assessments. And we're talking about the reading and writing and the speaking and listening. So you'll get a little bit more in-depth understanding of what the syllabus is all about. Then, of course, which is also critically important, we're going to be looking at some quality assurance mechanisms especially as those relate to speaking and listening. So we'll get a chance to be familiar with the quality assurance process. Also, we'll be sharing some of our experiences. We have some very experienced classroom teachers, those who are in the field, and we will be getting some examples of how they manage the challenges, and some examples of, I would imagine, best practices, so that we will leave this session with more knowledge, more information as we continue to share. Of course, for all of these workshops, we share with our participants the Chief Examiner's report. So we're going to be looking in depth at how our candidates performed in the June examinations of this year. And of course, we'll share some strategies for teaching and learning. I know that some of us, especially those who are new to City and Guilds, you might be having some doubts, you might be having some concerns about City and Guilds English, especially as we line up with other regional examinations. And I think we ought to pause to give you some understanding as to the value of this certification. So we're going to be looking at why we consider City and Guilds English skills a beneficial and a worthwhile alternative. So we focus on all aspects of communication. And by that we mean we incorporate all the language arts skills. Speaking, listening, reading, writing, and of course viewing. And we also need to pause to mention that other regional exams have seen the value of what we do, especially with the speaking and listening. And those of us who are also teachers of CSEC will recall that they added their oral component in 2016. That was really after City and Guilds English had introduced their speaking and listening. So people are seeing the value of that oral component. City and Guilds English skills is also valuable to learners because it targets workplace skills. We are very practical, we are very hands-on. And participants having completed our certification, they should be able to follow multi-step instructions, write reports, understand written instructions, know to understand and interface with manuals, these practical things that will help them. And we should also mention that at stage 3, the certification is used for matriculation into tertiary institutions such as the University of the West Indies, UTEC, the Michael University College, and a few others. And after this, I'll be sharing with you some of the other institutions that have endorsed City and Guilds English skills. We also need to tell you that City and Guilds English skills has international currency, and it is portable anywhere in the world that you go. And you mentioned City and Guilds. Nobody will ask you what it is because it's over 140 years old. So people are accustomed to it. Nobody will ask you what it is. If anywhere in the world, any continent, any country, you will see that there is a visibility, a certain amount of visibility with this product. We also think that English skills is important because it helps the learners, especially the oral part, to build their public speaking skills, and it builds their self-confidence. And also, it promotes active listening. Now, there's a difference between hearing something and listening. And what we train our candidates to do, or learners to do, is learn how to listen, and listen actively, listening for something specific. It also helps students to do research. So when they are, for example, preparing for their presentation at stage 3, they'll have to do some research so that whatever they speak from a position of information and knowledge and confidence. Also, we feel it is a worthwhile alternative to our regional examinations. And Miss Bryan, one of our assessors, she has done, and she did it a couple years ago. She actually created a document that maps CSEC and City and Guilds English. And you'll see how they are similar, and that the one point of departure with City and Guilds English and CSEC English A is that at English Skills we do not test them on the short story. It's not that we don't teach it, we don't test it, because we are thinking that many of our learners might not have that creative flair, and it would be unfair to test them in that area. But we do teach them poetry, we do teach them short story. It's just that it is not tested. But everything else is tested, and we'll get into that shortly. Let us look a little at those who have recognized English skills. And it is through the support of the Ministry of Education and Youth, so we want to thank them for that. The Jamaica Constabulary Force, or police officers, the Jamaica Defense Force, the Army, the Ministry of Finance and the Public Services, the Jamaica Employers Federation, and the University Council of Jamaica. All of these entities have recognized and have endorsed City and Guilds English skills, and they accept their workers with stage 3 English. This list also provides you with a little bit more detail into the local universities that are also on board with City and Guilds English skills at stage 3, and it's a long list there, and we have mounted it for you to have a look. So there are 21 local universities that have fully endorsed us. And what does that mean? They use it as a matriculation device to get into their institutions. So students, prospective students with stage 3 English skills are accepted in those institutions. Now, one of the things we have to think about as we go through this workshop is to provide our participants with what we have available in terms of empowering, especially those who are new to English skills. And we want to ensure that whatever is provided, you understand what we use to test, to evaluate, to teach. So the handbook, and you will see that on screen, this is what it looks like. The handbook is really, if you want to call it, the Bible, so to speak. And we are going to go through what it entails, and it covers all 3 stages. It also covers all the skills, and it covers the internal assessment and the external assessment. It is a comprehensive document, and it is designed to support our teachers. So it covers reading, whether you read for meaning, or using strategies to develop and extend vocabulary. It covers writing, whether you're talking about grammar, punctuation and spelling, planning and organizing, and clear communication. It also covers the speaking and listening, whether you do that to obtain information, to take part in a discussion, or to present information. And the content, we have content and assessment for all 3 stages. So this really is a comprehensive document that covers the reading and writing, the speaking and listening, and it covers stages 1, 2, and 3. Let us take a look at the structure of the handbook. And it is very important because it really is that document that covers literally everything that you are likely to need. Of course, we provide other things that will support you, but this handbook is useful because we call it a kind of guidance. It provides you with the guidance that you need. Now, every unit that you see in the handbook will have these main features. It will speak to the level or the stage. So it will tell you whether it is stage 1, stage 2, or stage 3. It covers the aim. It also covers the learning outcome and the assessment criteria, and it provides not only content but sample of content. And let us just quickly go through what a typical unit looks like. And at random, I'm going to select Unit 302. And Unit 302, that is stage 2. And the topic of this unit is reading, using reading strategies. And the aim of this unit is to develop the learner's reading strategies to enable the learner to find information for specific purposes from descriptive, explanatory, and persuasive texts using different reading strategies. So that is the aim. The learning outcome, because this is at the end of this unit, what will the learner be able to do? The learner will be able to locate information for specific purposes. And let us look at a few of the assessment criteria. And when we talk about the assessment criteria, we're looking at the how, and we're looking at tangible measurements. So this is what the learner can do. Use organizational features, use organizational and structural features to locate information. And that is very important. When you read, you have to be able to know where to find that particular information. Another, use different reading strategies to find and obtain required information. Another one, identify different types of information within descriptive, explanatory, and persuasive texts. And most importantly, you should be able to identify main points, specific detail, and meaning conveyed by images. Now, all of these things would be discussed in the unit, and you will see how the through the content and the sample of content the teacher can manage. And let us just look quickly at a sample, a content sample. They should understand and use organizational features to locate information and identify main ideas in a text. And here's a sample. They could read a newspaper, a magazine article, and highlight the main or key points. So what this handbook also does is to provide you with some samples that you could use, some examples that you could use if you're using this unit to teach reading and you're encouraging students and learners to use these learning strategies. Also, they could read the synopsis on the cover of a book, that blurb, to explain to a peer what the book is about, because the blurb really is a summary of the book itself. So that is also an example of getting main ideas. They could use the contents or the index section of a textbook related to study and locate specific information. So this is also another illustration in how our learners can access information using the contents of a book or the index. And also, if we go high-tech, in a sense, find a specific website and they use a search engine to locate a specific tab on the page. So they could go to the home page, and then from there they are able to access the information. So this is just a typical unit with all the features that you have seen there. And what we also need to be aware of too is that all of the assessments, everything is aligned to the assessment. There are no surprises in the exam. There are no surprises in the activities that the learners will get. Everything is connected. And even when we are testing them and we are marking them, the mark scheme will tell you specifically which unit and which assessment criteria we're using for that particular piece of work. So everything is there outlined in the handbook in a very systematic way. So that was just a while ago, that was just looking at the handbook itself. If we were to look at the syllabus broadly, we need to understand that the 3 stages cover reading and writing, and that is externally set and marked. It's like the typical traditional exam. You go, you sit, and it's marked in London. However, the speaking and listening, that is like the SBA, that is marked internally by the school, by the teachers. We also need to know that we have one thematic integrated assessment for that reading and writing. But that one assessment covers a range of things. It includes detailed reading, extended writing, grammar, and punctuation. And we'll get to that shortly in terms of explaining what this one paper is all about. And it's the same thing for the speaking and listening. It's one event, but it covers listening task, group discussion, presentation, reflection, and evaluation. So we are very comprehensive and very compact in how we go about assessing the work of our students. This is really about the exam itself, the speaking, the reading and the writing. This is the examination. What is it like structurally for stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3? If you look at the slide, you will see that it's a 2-hour paper. So whether you do stage 1, stage 2, or stage 3, 2 hours. You'll also see that for this exam, at whatever stage, you need a dictionary or a thesaurus. I don't know if there's any other exam that has that, but we believe in empowerment. So, and there's always at least one item that speaks to the use of a dictionary. So we are encouraging you, and if you're new to City and Guilds English, these candidates must go to the exam with a dictionary because they are going to be tested on the use of a dictionary. So we see already 2 features: the duration of the paper, the fact that they need to take a dictionary. What is different though in the 3 stages is if you look at the extended writing task, it's different for each stage. So for stage 1, and stage 1 is the lowest stage, they write, and when we talk about extended writing, we mean that second part of the paper where they write, whether it's a letter or an essay or a report. For stage 1, it's 75 to 100 words. At stage 2, it's 200 to 300 words. But you notice at stage 3, and this is closest in alignment to CSEC English A, it is 300 to 400 words. So we have to be aware of the distinction in terms of what happens with that writing task at each stage in the examination. All right, so that is that for the structure of the exam. A while ago we looked at the fact that for the exam, the candidates really sit one paper. And we said it's for 2 hours, but we also need to reinforce the fact that it's a 2-hour paper, but it is comprehensive and it is compact. So they sit one paper, not a paper 1, a paper 2, a paper 3. One paper. And you will also note that our skills are assessed in a practical way. For instance, summary skills. We do not test word count in terms of the task that we'll have them do in the exam. So we are not going to say, summarize this passage in 120 words, because if you did that, you'll have candidates counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they spend the whole time counting. We are more practical. What we will say is, we will give you the number of sentences. We might say, in 2 or 3 sentences, say what this is about. And in doing so, we also provide this space restriction, so you know that you don't go over that. So in a very practical way, we're still testing your ability to read, understand, and extract the main idea, but we are not asking you to use that via word count. We also need to mention another advantage of a single paper is that our documents, you want to call them passages, City and Giles will call them documents, they are relatable and they are modern. So you'll see examples of a blog or a website or something like that. It is not this tired old print. And every one of these documents that they are tested for comprehension, we have illustrations, we have images, because we feel that readability is important. So, and we want to get the readers and the learners engaged, because we realize that we have among us some reluctant readers. Not everybody likes to see print, and sometimes they are really turned off when they see pages and pages of print and nothing to relieve the eye. So we also not only provide the images, but later on we're going to be looking at some layout features, some of the other features that we use to make the document easier to read, easier to understand, easier to identify with. Another thing about our single paper is that our rubrics facilitate success. We provide prompts, especially for the extended writing. So they're going to write, say, a letter. Yes, they're going to write a letter, but we also tell them what we want them to put in that letter. So we provide like 3 prompts, and they build out on that, because we enable our learners to succeed, and we encourage that. And another thing about our single paper is that we take what we call a thematic approach. Every year we have a theme. For 2024 it was education. And we'll soon learn what 2025 will be. But everything in that assessment, whether it is speaking and listening or reading and writing, is related to that particular theme for that particular year. So the passages that they get will be about that particular theme. The grammar activities, the punctuation activities, the reading, the speaking and listening activities, all of those will be related to that particular theme. So we are true to that single paper, that single theme, that single setting. Let us pause and take a look at the syllabus per stage. And this is really a summary. We mentioned already that it's a one-paper exam, but it's a one-paper exam with a difference in that it can be very in-depth, very engaging, and we have to ensure that our learners are ready and up to the task. So for stage 1, we mentioned that's the lowest stage. There are 2 documents, 2 comprehension pieces, if you want to call it that. But not only that, we're going to be having some tasks that are related to the piece or that theme. They will have to be taught concepts that relate to, for them to understand and appreciate the comprehension exercises, author's purpose. Everybody writes for a purpose, whether we agree or believe it, whether it is an overt purpose or it is just there. But everything, even when you scribble down something, it is for a purpose. So the learners will have to understand the purpose. And we're going to be going into that in some detail. But what if I am writing and my aim is to entertain you, as against to instruct you, as against to persuade you? There is a difference, and if they don't get the purpose, they will not really be able to understand the piece, and they are likely not to do very well. So one of the key things that they have to know in terms of a good comprehension skill is to understand the purpose. They also have to understand organizational features, and we're going to be talking about that shortly. Form filling and using an image to extract meaning. We mentioned earlier that in the comprehension pieces that they get, they will see illustrations, pictures, and so, but they're not there for decoration. They're there for a particular purpose. And they should be able, because there always will be a question on image, they should be able to see the purpose of that and answer the question appropriately. And as I mentioned earlier, dictionary use. Of course, they'll have to be able to use a dictionary, and we'll get to that shortly as well. We'll expand a little further on that. Vocabulary, capitalization, punctuation, and at this stage, we really are at stage 1. We're just concentrating on the end marks, full stop, question mark, exclamation mark, and of course, spelling and grammar. We need to also mention that the only stage that carries the filling out the form and putting words in alphabetical order is at stage 1. So we need to be aware of that. They will not be tested on form filling and putting words in alphabetical order anywhere else but at stage 1. And they might be asked something like this: read and they should be able to read and complete forms. Whether they, and as an activity, you might want to help them to create some forms by giving them some words and let them create a form. And sometimes they might be tested on entering a competition, and there's a form that they fill out to enter the competition. So this will get them to learn to put in personal data, and it doesn't mean that they have to use their real name and their real addresses, but we want something that is fit for purpose. So we want them to know when you say last name, what that is as against first name, as against your address, and so on. So basic things, because the product is such a practical one, we know that as they go out in life, they need to be able to fill out forms. Everywhere you go these days, whether you're filling forms online or by hand, hard copy, they have to learn that form filling is part of the real world, the work world. So they will get practice doing that. Another thing I mentioned that only happens at stage 1 is putting words in alphabetical order. And especially, you'll have to teach them first and second placement. And you can use some activities such as, the dictionary, the thesaurus, a glossary, and even the telephone directory, because I know very soon that will be out of style based on technology, but the telephone directory is organized alphabetically, so they'll see that, they can be able to relate to situations and events in which they will need to put words in alphabetical order. So that is what really happens at stage 1. And of course, that is the first part of the paper, 2-hour paper. The second part is they'll have to write something. And remember, we said that at this level, it is not a whole lot of writing they do. They write under 100 words at this stage. And usually letters, reports, articles, but you would have seen that also in the handbook that I just mentioned. Stage 2. Again, comprehension and related tasks, and they, like stage 1, they will do 2 comprehension passages, and they will have to be able to identify various forms of informative discourse. They have to understand the use and function of images, summary skills, and this is very important, organizational features, persuasive devices, vocabulary expansion, capitalization, punctuation, and again, the same as stage 1 with especially full stop, question mark, exclamation, and some spelling and grammar. What we also need to remind you is that especially at stage 3, they should begin to do some serious summary work. They should be able to understand main ideas. We should be able to get them to be a bit more discriminating in extracting the main idea from the supporting idea. They ought to be able to do that. And they should be able to understand the source documents. So whatever it is that they get, they ought to be able to say list the main ideas here. Because if they are not able to do that, it means that they really don't understand what they read. And comprehension is not calling words, it's reading and understanding. And one of the ways of testing that is to be able to say in a succinct way what this is about. So getting the main ideas, that's very, very important and very good for their summary writing skills. And as in stage 1, they also have the continuous writing that they will have to do, whether it's letters, articles, reports. They also have to do that. And stage 2, the writing is a little longer in terms of word length than stage 1, and you would have seen that outlined earlier. Now stage 3, and this is a stage that employers are really interested in terms of accepting learners as prospective workers, and also at tertiary institutions for them to join to do their bachelor's or their associate degrees. Stage 3 is different from the others in a few ways. One of the ways is that there are 3 documents, now 3 passages instead of 2. So stages 1 and 2, you have 2 documents. At stage 3, it is 3. And it's a little bit more sophisticated. When you look at a typical stage 3 paper, you will see quite a few differences in terms of the size of, not just the number of documents, but the size of the documents, the font size, the readability, the kind of vocabulary that you're exposed to, as against a stage 1 paper. They ought to also learn and understand author's purpose. They ought to be able to distinguish biases, fact and opinion, summary skills, of course, organizational features. They must be able to extract meaning from a wide range of texts, and with all the stages, understand the function of images, vocabulary. And here at stage 3, vocabulary is a little bit more sophisticated. They'll have to understand not just the meaning of words, but synonyms and roots and affixes. Punctuation, of course, spelling and grammar and capitalization. So here at stage 3, 3 source documents, unlike stages 1 and 2. And the writing, 300 to 400 words, the continuous writing. And they're likely to get letters, articles, multi-step instructions, and speeches. So if we were to summarize then what is common in all the levels in terms of what you teach, here are a few things that you might want to take into account. The purpose of the text, whether it is stage 1, 2, or 3, they have to know that. They have to understand main ideas. So they must know what the text is about, what the document is about. Layout features, organizational features, text features, whatever you call it. That is tested in all the stages. And they might get a question that sounds something like this. Name 3 layout features which make the document easier to read. And they'll have to look now at a particular document and list 3. Now, what the chief examiner has said, and we'll get to that later, that the candidates tend to describe the feature instead of just naming it. So let us look at some of the names, some of the things that we can say are part of what we call layout features. These are the things apart from the print itself, although that can be depending on how it is, that will make the document easier to read. Headline or heading or header, that's an organizational feature. Subheading, also the image, whether it is a picture, a photograph, an illustration, a graph, all of those things are also organizational features. When you underline, depends on how you paragraph and you space, and the white space between the words, between the paragraphs, whether you bold, because some fonts are bolded, whether you use capitals, whether you use different font sizes, whether you use color, whether you have boxes and borders and highlight and all of these things. And there are quite a few, more than a dozen of these that we can call layout features or organizational features. When you are teaching, you have to find passages with these, or what I used to do, I would take a typical ordinary text without illustration and infuse a few, or I could ask the learners, what do you think we could use to pep it up a little bit? So they could say, all right, you could put some bullets here, or you could increase the font size, or you could do maybe a heading or a subheading. You can also get them to do that. Okay, so those are some of the things. Also, whether it is stage 1, 2, or 3, they must understand the image and how image impacts meaning. Remember, it's not just for decoration, it's there for a particular purpose. It aids comprehension. Dictionary and dictionary use, regardless of the stage, that has to be taught. Punctuation and grammar, and of course, the extended writing, continuous writing. So we are going to take a pause here and look at speaking and listening.
Good day, I am Natisha Lindsay and I am a teacher of English at the St. Jago High School. Let us now look at the internal assessment, the listening and speaking component of the City and Guilds exam. So on your screen you should be seeing the communication process, which is what the listening and speaking component is really about. The ability of the students to communicate with each other through the process of sending a message in their group discussion, receiving, providing feedback, and ensuring that the messages is decoded and encoded. So here is what the exam is really about. It is done in April, and it is a recording for each stage plus a group discussion. Additionally, the stage 3 exam has an individual presentation component. So stage 1, you listen to the recording and answer set questions. Then students are expected to participate in a small group discussion. Stage 2, also listen to the recording and answer set questions and participate in a small group discussion. And then finally, stage 3, they listen to the recording, they answer the set question. There is an individual oral presentation on which they will be peer reviewed by a topic provided by City and Guilds 1 week prior to the exam. And then the students are expected to do a group discussion. All groups from stage 1 to 3 must consist of 3 to 5 students, no less, no more. So how is stage 3 different? Well, stage 3 includes, as I said before, an individual presentation. Students are expected to give an effective explanation or account, that is to integrate the research materials that they would have done into their presentation. Then they are to demonstrate organization and sequencing of information and ideas. Students are also expected to speak confidently using standard English. In Jamaica, it is the Jamaican Standard English throughout the presentation. This does not mean that there cannot be an infusion of Creole, but it must primarily be the Jamaican Standard English for Jamaican candidates. Students are also expected to incorporate the multi-step instructions that can be followed and respond to criticism and offer criticism constructively. Students must also confidently respond to questions, and they're also required to evaluate their peers' presentation and complete the peer review sheet. For the presentation, students are marked out of 12 marks. So
The allotment for grades for stage 3 listening and comprehension. There are 6 questions aligned to stage 3 and they are worth 8 marks. And you'll see that there's an independent recall question marked out of 3, a recall question chosen from a multiple choice item which gives 1 mark, an independent recall question which is also 1 mark, another independent recall question, also another mark, and then there's an evaluative free response. This is where the students are expected to give their opinion on what was required, and then that is marked out of 1. Same again, another free response, also 1 mark. So the expected speaking skills, and this is for all the stages. Students are expected to present information and ideas in a logically sequenced manner, that is during their discussion. They are to provide adequate details in presenting general information or answering questions on a given topic. Students are also expected to speak clearly for the given situation, whether as part of the group, stage 1 to 3 in their discussion, or as an individual presenter for the stage 3 candidate, to give an account or a description or an explanation. Students must also be able to make requests and ask questions to obtain information during their discussion and provide additional information in a variety of contexts. They must respect the turn-taking rights of each other, and they must also be able to use phrases for interruption. All students must make relevant contributions to the discussion. It is very important that candidates are told that they must participate in the discussion because they are marked individually. So the tested language skills, and that is for all 3 stages. While being prepared for the exam, candidates at all 3 stages would have been exposed to reading and writing, as was said earlier, and speaking and listening, and also viewing, especially as they are exposed to the source documents. So therefore, they should become knowledgeable in summary writing and essay writing and expository writing, such as letters to the editor, emails, blogs, notices, headings, and subheadings. As Carol would have said earlier, the organizational structures, text features, etc. They should also be able to identify main ideas and topic sentences. They should be able to identify spelling and grammatical errors, identify the purpose of different text features, and use them in their writing. Importantly, students should also identify the author's intention when they read a text. And so we will go into quality assurance. This is a very delicate part of the standardization process for City and Guilds. There are so many different rules and regulations that must be followed in order for the exam to be standardized and accepted, because it's an international exam, and locally, regionally, it must be standards. And therefore, there are some helpful tips that I will share. 1, that the assessment must be done in an area devoid of noise so that students are not distracted. 2, there must be an IQA and an assessor in the room. This is mandatory. If there are any institutions that will be using additional rooms, then there must be a delegate IQA for each additional room, and the site must update a center update form listing the names of the delegated IQAs and additional assessors. This is mandatory. This is a serious breach on the part of any site. The documents to be seen, that is when the assessors are coming out, they're going to require that the site present, and the site usually means the exam coordinator or the IQA, present the registration list of candidates, mark books and registers of all assessors involved in the qualification, lesson plans of those assessors too, the minutes of meeting, particularly where City and Guilds matters have been discussed, samples of candidates' work, diagnostic tests, organizational chart, and normally what has been happening in presenting organizational charts, sites have been presenting the organizational chart of the institution. What is really expected is an organizational chart of the English department, because within the English department you might have teachers that are specially tasked to deal with City and Guilds matters, to coordinate lesson plans, and so that is what the quality assurer is looking for. There's also the qualification that is required of all persons offering the qualification. So the teachers, the IQA, their qualifications must be presented to the external assessor. No teacher, and that is also important, should be teaching English skills if they do not have the required qualification in the subject area. And importantly, the IQA is expected to present a sampling plan, and that is a recording of visits to the classroom where they have been supervising the assessors. As stated earlier, the groups for the exam must be 3 to 5, not more, not less. However, there have been instances where we might see that some sites have less than. Therefore, it is recommended that the IQA gather students from maybe a different grade level. Stage 2 is short. You can ask a stage 3 candidate just to sit in on the discussion so that the student can be graded. If it is stage 3 that you don't have enough students to participate, you can use stage 2 candidates, to sit into the discussion so that the stage 3 candidate can be graded. So if there is any occasion when the group is too small, then just use additional students from either of the stages to engage in the discussion so that the student that is registered for that stage can be graded. If the cohort is a large cohort, the exam is usually 1 week, and therefore if the cohort is a very large cohort, the IQA or the exam coordinator can write a formal letter to City and Guilds requesting an extension so that they can get a few more days to complete the exam. Students must prepare the topic that was shared by City and Guilds a week prior to the exam. Students are not expected to do their presentation, that is at stage 3, their presentation on the topic that is in the exam booklet. They are required to get that 1 week to prepare for the presentation, so they must use the topic that was sent a week prior. IQAs and assessors are expected. It is an expectation that they sign the booklet of students, especially if they are going to be sampled. So IQA, there's a space at the back of the exam booklet that IQAs and assessors are expected to sign and date. Assessors should try to comment, even if it is a sentence, on what the student did in the discussion, the presentation. Make a comment. There's a box at the top of the exam booklet that allows for comments to be made. This is just to help the EQA, if the site is sampled, to be able to say, this is what the student did, the student contributed this to the conversation, or made this statement in the presentation. Students should be told what they are expected to do at the beginning of the assessment. So before the assessment is started, the IQA or the assessor is expected, because sometimes candidates don't know what they're to do, and so the confusion can be avoided if you say to them, this is what you are supposed to do. And also, if you are not satisfied with your grade, here is the step that you can take. This is where you can go to query your grades and so. And finally, for the speaking activity, the recording for all 3 stages must be played 3 times for the candidates, and therefore after the 3rd time, students can now start to answer the questions set on the recording. And I'll now turn over to Carol as she comes to us with the Chief Examiner's report.
Good day everyone, my name is Alexa Sterling and I will be your host for today. Welcome to Marcus Garvey Technical High School Box Popping English, and I have several students here who will be reviewing the English City and Guilds course. Which topic in the City and Guilds English course did you find most challenging? Starting with him.
Well, thank you for asking. I found the article writing quite challenging.
Okay, moving on.
I found the subject challenging. I found the part where we had to read the paragraph and answer the question.
I found the article most challenging.
Question 2. How did you prepare for this exam?
I prepared for the exam. Me and my teacher worked hard 2 weeks in time in advance to prepare for it, and myself I did past papers via the internet.
I went into the Google Classroom and reviewed the slides that my English teacher posted. I did past papers and what she
Alright, good. Based on the topic that my teacher gave to me, I went over them and studied and tried.
Were there any aspect of the qualification you wish you covered in the English course?
I wish I had covered the concept of article writing more.
I wish I went over subject verb elements and articles. I think the paper was perfectly worse.
I think I should have covered the article most.
What did you enjoy most about the English course?
We enjoyed alphabetizing.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be looking briefly at the Chief Examiner's report. Now, this report addresses how our candidates performed in the June exam of this year. And this document, of course, is prepared in London and provides an overview of the performance, and it details some strategies for improvement. At least we as a team will be looking at some strategies for improvement. At a glance, though, we could look at the pass rate overall in the different categories. For the hard cohort, it was 88%. For the sixth form, and we're talking about the Jamaican situation here right now, 71%. At the grade 11, 74%, and the combined pass rate nationally was 76%. Now, this is not exactly what we would want, so we are aiming as we go forward to improve. And we are going to be relying on our colleagues to help us in this process as we try and increase our performance. We know that you can do it. You've proven that in the past, and we are relying on your continued dedication and support. We're going to be looking briefly at the grade distribution per stage. At stage 1, there was a slight decrease in the pass rate. And we're looking at pass, merit, and distinction per stage. At stage 1, there was a slight decrease in the pass rate by 1.38%. For merit, however, there was a slight increase, 0.42%. And for the distinction, there was a slight increase again by 0.79%. Marginal, but hopeful. We are hoping, though, that next year we will have a more joyful tale to tell. For stage 2, there was an increase in the pass rate by 3.67. That's not too bad. However, there was a slight decrease in merit, 2.9%, and a slight decrease also in the distinction, 2.6. So stage 2, we only saw an increase in the pass rate. For the merit and distinction, we didn't do so well. And we are comparing, of course, the data with last year's performance. Stage 3, there was an increase in the pass rate by 5.49%. However, there was a decrease in merit by 4.1%. And really, this is cause for concern, a decrease in distinction at stage 3 by 7%. Last year we had 14%. So we colleagues, we have some work to do, especially since at stage 3, this is a stage where, we have our candidates going into tertiary institutions and going into the world of work. So we have to see how we can devise some strategies to increase the performance at all stages, but especially at stage 3. In terms, though, of some other areas of the report, and we will certainly supply you with the report in full when we send out the information to you, if you haven't yet got that. In terms of commendations, the chief examiner was impressed that at least in 2 areas, the candidates were able, 1, to respond to the correct source document. Because of the way the exam is structured, document 1, document 2, and for stage 3, document 3. And they will have the questions and the activities per document. So they might say questions 1 to 5 are for document 1. And in former years, the candidates would not answer per document, but they've got the hang of it, and they're now able to do that. So we're really thankful for you teachers that you've been hammering that, and they seem to have got that. Another thing that they seem to have got very well down to a science is to be able to relate the image in the documents to print in terms of answering the question, whether it's a graph or whatever, an illustration. They're able to answer in such a way that they are aware that the image is related to the comprehension in understanding what the passage is about. We, however, have some areas for development, and we also have some challenge areas. In terms of areas for development, you'll remember earlier in the presentation, I mentioned dictionary use. Now, because all stages have to use the dictionary, whether stage 1, 2, or 3, you have to get them in the habit of using the dictionary. It remains one of the areas that we have to press on, we have to encourage, we have to find more activities. They need to see the dictionary not just as a little document where you get words and meaning, but a dictionary has many, many functions. In terms of parts of speech, when you look for a particular word, or when they ask you for a dictionary definition, they might give you a question such as, give a dictionary definition of the word in bold. And they give you the word. The word comes from the document, from the passage. Now, you are not supposed to create your own meaning, as some of the candidates seem to want to do. Or they might just, just write anything that comes to mind. No, you are to take the dictionary, and usually, sometimes, especially at stage 3, they'll tell you the part of speech, because one word can have many, many meanings. So if they give you a word and they want you to use it as a noun, When you go to the dictionary, you cannot give the meaning for that word as a verb. You are going to lose marks because you have not answered the question correctly. So in terms of even that, they'll have to understand words, meanings, parts of speech. They have to understand synonyms too, because they might ask you to give another word that means the same as so and so. So you will have to bear those in mind. So the dictionary use is very important. And the dictionary use also for stage 1, where they have to put words in alphabetical order. Remember that you might have all the words starting with a particular letter of the alphabet. So they'll have to understand second placement to realize that this one will come first because, and not because all of them might have the same A, beginning with A. But AE would come first than AR or whatever. So they'll have to understand first and second placement with that. And I'm repeating, they should also understand that when you're asked to give a dictionary meaning, it means just that go to the dictionary or the thesaurus and write out the meaning. That's all it is asking. It's an instruction. That's all it is asking you to. Go to the dictionary and write the meaning. If they give you a particular part of speech, that is that part of speech that you should give the meaning for, not any meaning that you just extract because it is in the dictionary. So you have to be careful how you answer questions. The other area that we have to continue to work on, and I'm not saying that students are not doing well, because some of the students have done well with these, but we can improve, and this is another area, and especially at stage 2, getting main idea. And they might be asked something like this: which one of these 3 sentences best summarizes the opinion of so and so? Now they'll have to read, they'll have to understand, because they might be given 3 or 4 options, and they have to find out which one sums it up. Now, they can't be guessing this. They have to understand the passage first of all, to be able to, in a sense, it's a kind of synthesis. They'll have to be able to see if this compresses, if this speaks to the meaning in a very brief way. So main idea, they have to do that. They might also be asked to identify 3 main points made in the text, and you might be given like 6 options. So they'll have to underline or circle 3 of these. But the 3 that we are looking for are those 3 sentences that will speak to the main points. So they have to understand main idea. Or they might ask you to summarize a document giving 3 key points. Now, if you don't know what the document is about, you're not able to determine what is the main idea. So we have to continue working this, getting main ideas when it comes to comprehension. And this is especially at stage 2. Vocabulary is also important. And they might get a question such as, explain a phrase which means the same as. And you might get 4 multiple choice items, and they will have to understand the phrase to be able to identify what is correct. Or they might say, which word in the last paragraph means the same as so and so. So they might send them to a particular area in the text, in the document, that they will have to look to see what it means. So vocabulary again is important. They have to understand synonyms, they have to understand antonyms especially. And they just have to understand certain idiomatic expressions, because that will all, especially at stage 3, they're asked that a lot. So they'll have to be able to do that. And this is where we might put a plug in for the word list, because every stage, as part of the support, not only do they get the theme for the year, but they get the word lists that accompany each stage. And this is also a wonderful way to expand vocabulary, build your spelling skills, and build your research skills, and so on. All right. No. So I've looked at the commendations, I've looked at the areas for improvement. We have the challenge areas. And later on, we're going to be looking at the challenge areas in our little discussion segment. But let me just quickly mention the concern that is raised at all stages about our learners or candidates not using the correct punctuation marks. And remember that the rubrics are very clear, very precise. They might ask you to insert 3 punctuation marks that are missing, and they give you a paragraph. Now, we don't play hide and seek in the exam. So we are not vague in the exam. You know that there are 3 punctuation marks. Don't insert 4 or 5 because you're creating what is not there. And also, you will have to determine what marks are missing. They don't tell you. So it could be an exclamation mark, it could be a question mark, it could be a full stop. You will have to determine that. And that is why it is important that you know the functions of these punctuation marks, especially the end markers. When you get to stage 3, you'll have to understand more sophisticated markers like the comma, the apostrophe, and so on. Grammar also remains an issue, and in the exam they might ask you to circle 3 grammatical options, or they will give you a paragraph with some options, and you choose, from each of them. They might give you 3 words, and you choose the correct one, you circle it. And most times we hardly get the candidates getting all 3 right. So they might get 2, some of them might get 1, some might not even attempt that at all. So we'll have to work on that. The other thing that we'll also have to work on, and grammar inter also, but we will be discussing that later, subject-verb agreement, that remains a challenge. And every year, it's the same thing that comes up. So we'll have to see if we might have to change our strategy. We'll have to see how best we can work around that. How can we meet the needs of our students? How can we improve? How can we, find other ways of treating an old problem, so to speak? Another area of challenge is the purpose of the text, the purpose of the document, and it comes again to author's purpose. As I mentioned earlier, everything that is written, everything that is said, there's a purpose behind it. So they might ask you a question such as, what is the main purpose of a document, of this document, document 1 or document 2 or document 3? So there are certain words that must be taught in terms of how these words function in the text itself, how these words function to define or describe the text. So, is the purpose to criticize? Is it to discuss? Is it to describe? Is it to persuade? Is it to inform? Is it to explain? Is it to advertise? Is it to review? Is it to praise? And there are myriad of other words that you can use. You will have to instill in these learners these words, what they mean, and which will apply to the particular document. And they might ask you the main purpose, because sometimes a text can function. You can have more than one purpose for it. I can be entertaining, but I'm informing you at the same time. But they might ask you for the main one. So you'll have to read and make a determination. And the final thing that we will look at, and that will come out in our discussion later, is the extended writing. Remember, we said whether it is stages 1, 2, or 3, they'll have to write something. And the length of what is written is determined by the stage. And we have this challenge. How do we get our learners or candidates to write an adequate number of words to fulfill the requirements of this assessment? How can we get them to expand bullet points? How can we get them to use the bullet points as, say, a launching pad to move on? How can we get them to manage the time so that by the time they do the first part of the paper, they'll have sufficient time to do the extended writing, which really in most instances is more than 50% of the marks. So we have to take this area very seriously. So we'll get to that in a moment, but we're going to end this section by just looking at some approaches, some tips. What can we do as teachers, as educators, as facilitators to help our candidates do well, do better, excel? How can we remove the fear factor? How can we get them to manage their time and get them a little bit more prepared for the exam? One of the things that we'll remind them to do, because this impacts time and time management, do not repeat the questions or the stems. So they ask you a question. In the space provided, do not waste time to write out the question again before you begin to answer it. That wastes time. Answer what is asked, only that. And sometimes all you're asked to do is just give one word or one sentence or just a tick or to circle or just to underline. You have to pay attention to what is asked and then answer all parts of the question. You lose marks if you do not answer everything. And one of the tips you can look at the value of the question. If it is asking you for 3 points and you see 3 there in terms of 3 marks and you only write 1, you will, if you're correct, you'll only get 1 mark. So you have to learn how to utilize and manage your time and read and answer what is asked. We're encouraging you also to spend some time on the extended writing. Use the prompts as guide and expand the points that are given. We're telling you to spend some time because of the value of that section of the paper. It's a lot of marks that will go to waste if you do not encourage the students to spend some time on that, the planning and the writing. They should be encouraged to read over their work, and for stages 2 and 3, they need to sign to say that they have checked what they have written, and I think there's a mark awarded to that. We encourage them to encourage your students to use a black ink pen, not even blue, black. No pencil, no highlighter, none of these pretty color things that they tend to use, no. Black ink only, and write legibly. Write so that the examiners can read what is written. And they are to take a dictionary to the exam. All stages use the dictionary. And we're encouraging you teachers to give the candidates at least one opportunity to do a sample paper. It is very important. We don't want to shock them when they go into the exam and they see what is there. They need to see what a paper looks like. They need to see what the front looks like, what they're going to be asked to write out in terms of their personal information. They also need to see how the paper is set up. Even if you do not give them the entire paper in one setting, but they need to see what it looks like so that they are not traumatized when they go into the exam. They also, and I mentioned that earlier, look at the number of marks per question, because that will determine how much you write and how expansive is your answer. And finally, remind the candidates that they do not need to use their own identity and address and telephone number for stage 1 when they're writing up the form. You can use fictitious names as long as it is, fit for purpose. They don't have to feel violated that they're giving out personal information. But it is an activity that is requiring a certain skill and application, so they'll have to determine that they know what is being asked for when we ask for first name, last name, and an email address, and so on, a telephone number. Because in real life, these are some of the things that they do. I think this is, no, we have some resources for teachers. We mentioned earlier that the handbook was there for teachers. We have other available resources, and on screen you'll see a few. We have tutorial materials, we have the handbook that we mentioned. In addition to the handbook, we have 14 sets of past papers that will cover all stages. We have the guidance document. We have a textbook, hardcover textbook, textbook, and that is available at the media services at the Ministry of Education. We have a frequently asked question handbook, and that covers, and that was created by Miss Bryan, and it covers pretty much everything that you would want to ask about. The questions are there, the answers are provided. There's also the Smart Screen, this online platform created by London that produces a wealth of tutorial materials for teachers and students. We also have on YouTube past workshops and presentations, and that's the address you can access. And also there's an ebook called English Practice for City and Guilds and Other Exams, and that is written by Garcia, Bisnot, Clark, and Perry, and that can be bought through Kotobi. So these are some of the resources. We try to empower you as best as possible with what is needed as you deliver this certification. Okay, so we have come to the end of this section. We're going to be going shortly into our discussion, a roundtable talk, a discussion, and we are going to have fun as we share some strategies for us to excel as teachers, as learners in this business of education.
Let's take another break. Welcome back to the final segment of today's show, our panel discussion. Feel free to share your views right here in our chat, and also remember to complete the exit questionnaire before you go. Thank you.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We have for our discussion an erudite set of educators, and we're going to be sharing. This really is a sharing session where we, in a sense, knock our heads together and see how best we can share some strategies that we have garnered over the years as we deliver City and Guilds English skills. But before we do that, let me introduce our panel. To my immediate left, we have Miss Natisha Lindsay. She is the external verifier and a teacher at St. Jago High School. Next to her is Ms. Charmaine Tingling, the head of department at Holy Trinity High. And next to her is Miss Michelle Roberts, the head of department at Camperdown High. And let me also pause to add that each of these educators has more than 20 years experience in the business. So we are anxious to hear what they have to share with us. Last time we looked at our students, and we had them in studio, and we had an interactive session with them. This time we are hearing from those who teach them. And I'm going to begin, since we have so many decades of experience among us, I'm going to begin by asking each of you to share with us either your most impactful experience or anything that would be tantamount to a joyous moment or a challenging moment in your illustrious careers. Who shall we begin with?
Hello everyone, it is really a pleasure to be here. I count it a privilege to be able to share on this esteemed team. One area of my teaching career involves the literacy program. And one of my most fulfilling moments over the years has been to see the transformation in students who come in reading below grade level. However, they're able to matriculate by grades 10 and 11 and hone skills that allow them to graduate with all their counterparts, their peers, and they do so well. So having coming in and have been introduced to a program of intervention on graduation day, when you see them walk down that aisle in their gowns, they're now on par with their peers, and that just lifts my heart. That is beyond words, and it is priceless. So those moments really keep me going.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. That is more than a feel-good moment. That's a moment of bliss.
Yes, it is, indeed.
All right. Can we hear from Ms. Tingley?
Yes. Hello again. I also share those blissful moments with my colleague, because sometimes at the Holy Trinity High School, we may get students performing or reading below the actual grade level they should be at. But a very personal one for me is a young man who came in at second form and refused to settle down, refused to do anything. He did everything else but learn and be in class, and I used to chase him all over the compound because I saw potential in him. He came to visit just the other day and reminded me that, Miss, never see anybody run a spiky like you, so, run him down actually, and today he is a member of the Jamaica Constabulary Force in a relatively good position, sits sometimes on these, I don't know what you call these different kinds of activities. They have to go for training, and he's a member of some of the elite teams. Wow. And it is a joy to watch him. I just stand there and listen him talk. There's another boy who was so hungry, and one day I said, "Why are you always sleeping?" And I looked in his eyes. I saw hunger, and I started taking him tea and porridge and crackers from he told some friends, and before you know it, when I drove onto the compound, my car was surrounded by them, and he decided that he wanted to be a teacher. And he graduated, top of his class, a teacher, migrated now, teaching, doing exceptionally well. Whenever I get down, those are the moments I think about those students, and it lifts me again.
And you know what? That is also important, because I'm learning two things from the two experiences you shared. One, you're able to spot talent. That young man who didn't want, maybe English class was just boring for him.
Just too boring.
And that was a perception that, some boys might share. And the fact that for the second one, and that is what us as teachers, we are empathetic. Yes. We're able to reach, and we do more than just teach. So you saw beyond a person there, you saw somebody in need, and you had a solution. You didn't send that person to somebody else. You took it on yourself to solve that problem. Usually. And that was a physical problem. Person wanted food.
I gave him food.
And once you get that,
yes,
you'll be surprised. I used to bribe them with food myself. Yes.
It
works every time.
It works.
I am thinking of two events in my early career when I met this young lady, and at the Penwood High School, I was there at the time. And as Ms. Roberts said, I was very interested in literacy. And I met this young lady who she just could not distinguish the letter A from O, and so she kept misspelling her name. And my greatest achievement to this day is the day that she was able to write her name and put that stick on the O and made it an A. And then I remember another occasion, another female student. I think that was a turning point in my career in how I view students, because she was drinking in my class at the time, and I said no eating, no drinking. That was the class rule. I was a disciplined teacher. Still disciplined, but rigid. I think I would say I was rigid. And she got upset and she threw the box and she ran out of the school. And she ran through the gates of the school and she never returned.
Oh dear.
And the students, when I came back upstairs, because of course I went behind her, that was disrespect. And the students said, "Miss,
she's not upset with you, but she's pregnant and she just does not know what to do. And so when I heard that, it hit home, because had I known that she was not feeling well, I would have allowed her to drink. I would have gone downstairs and bought the juice for her myself. And so over the years, I made a resolution that day, that no matter how a student will say, I am thirsty or I am hungry, I would rather you sit in the back of my class and eat. And I tell students, up to today, up to yesterday, if you are thirsty, you don't need to ask me to drink. Take up your water and drink. I'll continue teaching, you will not disturb me. I think those are the two most impactful things for me as an early teacher that has guided my career and my approach to students up to today.
And you see how one moment can be a turning point in your pedagogy. And just how you see yourself, how you see others. And you know, many of us, these become teachable moments because that shaped how you saw the students. And you realize, I guess, that you know, being rigid is one thing, being uncaring is another. And you were neither, but you didn't know at the time. And sometimes you might wonder what became of that young woman.
I've wondered that several times.
Yeah. And we also ask ourselves, what would have become of our young people if they did not have City and Guilds English skills as an option, as an alternative?
Yes.
And that is why we are here. Because I'm all for second chances.
Yes.
And I believe that every child should leave school with a certification.
Yes.
And that is why I've invested so much of my time in City and Guilds, because I'm passionate about this. And I'm happy, ladies, that we are here. And after this feel good and the stories and so on, yes, we're back to business though, because we want to look at a few areas of the Chief Examiner's report. And we want to see how best we can, you know, share some of our strategies, how best we can probably open the discussion a little bit to look at a few areas. We want to look at the extended writing because, as I mentioned earlier, this it values so many marks, and we can't afford our students not to do well here. We also want to look at it like punctuation and grammar, and we might, if we have time, we look at the purpose of documents, but especially punctuation and grammar and extended writing. Now, we want to hear from you in terms of some of the strategies. I think we probably could begin with Miss Tingley. Yes, you know, in terms of, because and you know why I'm asking you that, because since you are the role, you're chasing boys. Chasing boys to get them to learn.
Oh yes, I have a passion for that.
Yes, and you might have a lot of boys teaching.
Right.
And we also want to see how we can get young people to settle down and write, because we as a nation, and I'm speaking about Jamaica, can't speak about the other islands, we don't like to write. We are good talkers. We talk and we dance and so on, but we don't write as we should. So, and they are examined in this area. So how do we get them? What are some of the things we could use to get them to sit in an exam and devote some time to writing up to, say, 300-400 words? Or if they're at stage 1 up to 100 words, how do we get them to do that? So share with us, Ms. Tingley.
Speaking to an educator who is very passionate about boys learning. They have to learn. Right? I don't want them to come out scamming and doing all kinds of things. They have to do so. What invariably you will find, especially at stage 1, that the class of 32 students will have 28 boys, 4 girls. What do? You have to meet them. You have to find their place of interest. And that is my approach. So I'm not the teacher who goes in and hammer the concepts home. This is paragraphing. This is how you write an essay. We have our discussions, racing cars, Animals, they like the wild animals, wildlife. I might show you something, a video clip. There is one I do, the cheetah, I think, is the fastest animal, and I show them that. All the boys sit up. Now, if you want your entire class to be interested, have the boys interested, because in the minds of the girls, language, English is their thing. So how do the boys lead the discussion?
Oh, so
immediately you pipe their interest, so you have the boys against the girls, and I would then write on the board. So it says here, the cheetah is the fastest animal in the world. And yes, Miss, and they carry on, and who didn't know it was a lion? And I said, why, listen, watch the video, look at him moving gracefully. What's the information there that will help us to understand? And they tell you in their own language, because you know it's not the English they speak. You translate that into English and you write.
Well, maybe it's not standard Jamaican
Standard Jamaican English, yes. And so you do that. Then I come around to identifying the main idea with them. I find it works, and the supporting details. So I don't go into the class and say a paragraph is, or, and it consists of supporting details. I get you visually involved, and so we move that into the extended writing as well.
All right, so take a pause. We see two main things coming out. Getting their interest.
You must.
Getting and keeping the interest.
Keep the interest going.
And then finding activities around that interest.
That's
that would
correct.
speak to the language arts skills, viewing, speaking, reading, writing.
All of that.
Yes.
Hold on a second.
Yes.
As I'm listening to the conversation, I want to point out, as the EQA, I want to point out to the students and to the teachers that what they're seeing here is actually the discussion that is expected through all through stages being reenacted for them. So if they heard Carol just said, take a pause. So the phrases of interruption and such. So we are actually demonstrating as a group what the discussion should be about. And so having interjected now, I'll allow you to continue.
Thank you. I noted I said thank you.
Yes.
Yes, another strategy as well is music. Our children love music, especially the ones that are not as academically inclined, let me say that. So I start my class many times with music, a song that they can relate to, song that they like. Recently I did Jermaine Edwards' It's a Beautiful Day. And of course you have everybody rocking. Yes. And that's the sunshine. We're no singers here. And yes, and so
It's a thought that counts.
It's a thought that counts. They were rocking to it. Of course the boys are the selectors, so they grabbed my boombox and my phone and started doing, and everybody rocking. And afterwards I would ask them, what is he talking about? What is that thought that, is pervasive? I may not have used that word throughout the song. Miss, it's a beautiful day. Write it on the board.
So what you're getting now is the main idea.
It's the main idea, and then I say that. And I say,
good.
remember now, each paragraph must have one of these. And so they themselves will tell me some of the topics they could discuss, because I said, we'll move past paragraphings. How is it that we're going to discuss 5 paragraphs for an essay? So what are we going to be talking about? And they will give you related
So
topics.
in other words, how do you build up?
How do you build out on that and flesh
yes.
out? So they will give me 2, 3 topics, and I said, the choice is yours. Now I want about 4 paragraphs relating to the topic, because remember what that is, an essay is, and yes, and so you get your homework. You get your homework.
Great.
Yes. One told me that he went home and played the song and just danced and keep playing as he wrote.
Good.
So yes,
That's
so
great.
music is very important to my boys, especially to inner city children.
Yes.
You see, the thing is, the reality is you have to understand the children you teach.
Yes.
Where are they from, where their interest lies. So if you are the teacher who just believe you're concept based and that's it, you are not going to do very
No,
well.
you're going
The
to be in a
children who are not
different zone.
interested.
You're going
yes.
to be in a different zone. Yes.
If your background does not prioritize education, you're going to be in trouble. You now will have to make education friendly, make English learnable, friendly, and all of that.
And I see that your classes appear to be boy friendly.
Oh Lord.
Well, not that we have anything against girls, but colleagues, we have to try for the boys because they are the ones at risk.
Yes.
I don't want to, stereotype things and so on, but That's the sad reality, and we really have to rescue them. So whatever it takes, music for you, you will, yeah.
And I enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy that you do. Could we hear a little bit from Miss Roberts? Yes. Roberts. I see you're anxious to say something.
Right. Just a few points to add as we discussed. I realize that one issue that our children have is generating ideas. And so one of the skills we try to teach them is the act of brainstorming.
Okay. Yeah.
Because initially some of them, so we just teach them to just make that little writing plan. Anything you get from any subject. So when they are able to visualize any little topic, make your plan around it and get even five reasons, because we want them to fill out a page.
Yeah.
Right? And so we try to tell them the importance of fill out this in order. Any topic you have, just draw your circle, put your topic in the middle, draw your triangle. All right,
so
and
you're
that helps
visualizing.
them. So diagramming.
Yes.
That's a part of what we bring in. So in addition to what Ms. Tingling had said, now that you know that this is a beautiful day, jot down 5 things quickly. So it is also important and strategic. And one of the things I find, even when we set exams, sometimes when you go in, an idea might come to your head, but by the time you go through, now when they have that visual assistant, if you want, the minute you see your paper, go to the extended writing, you see a topic you have chosen, just jot down quickly.
The graphic is important, yes.
And so even if the idea, might slip the head, because you have it there, you can say, oh, this is what I thought of. And then that can also be helpful.
When I used to teach, and as you talk about boys, I remember there was about 2 years running when I had no girls in my class. And they used to say, Miss Lindsay has Calabar in Penwood. but what, added to what you said, I also gave them free writing exercise, which is the same thing that you're saying. It means that they are expected to write on any topic. No grammatical errors corrected from me. They're just the habit of writing and write until the page is finished. Then we go through it. I don't mark them for grammatical errors. I don't mark them for anything. I just want to get them to present their ideas on the page. So that idea of free writing, find something that they're interested in and just write is a good way to start.
So what you're saying, you just unleash the passion, just let them go.
Just write.
And then at a later stage, you can do your cleaning up and your, because they might be turned off if you begin to
start marking. And one thing I
you
don't
inhibit
do,
the creativity.
And one thing that I don't do, I am not the teacher that put the X or the tick. I put the tick and I put a full stop. If it is incorrect. But sometimes students, especially boys, are so turned off with the sometimes by the time the teacher is finished,
you see more red than blue,
you can't see their color ink. And so
we have to be careful. What some people do is you can determine what you're looking for in this piece of writing. I'm only looking for full stops here. So if there anything else, you don't pay that anymore because you're concentrating on full stops. And you can tell them each time what you're looking for. When I was a young teacher, I used to put it at the bottom because parents used to look and say, but what is that teacher? And I would ensure that in this activity I am looking for,
I did that too.
Because I didn't like to see
the color.
I thought it was too intrusive. I think Miss
I just want to add to what Miss Lindsay said about sharing the writing freely, and how I do mine as well. Added to that, they share their ideas, and so what the and the students now would add to that. So whatever they have on paper, and I would say, what else could he have written?
Also,
what else could share? So it becomes a community, becomes shared ideas, and they like that.
Yes. And if they don't even want to write, they can sit in a circle and they just talk. Provide sentences. Because sometimes they might be reluctant to write, and you don't want to turn them off yet, but you get them to talk. You get them to think.
And then the others listen and add to that.
Yes. All right. And another strategy you could also use, because teachers of English, we tend to have the largest classes, and we have a lot of marking to do. I learned from Molly of blessed memory the one paragraph strategy. And you could call it the one bullet strategy. Instead of doing an entire essay in one class, you just take a paragraph. So that could be one of the bullet points in the essay or one of the bullet points in the letter. And that will give you a chance now to see everybody's work, give them timely feedback, and send them on their merry way to do another paragraph. But you are going to take 5 paragraphs times 40. You will never be done. So you have to work smart.
Or you will miss some
yes,
persons.
you will. So you have to learn how you could do that. You know, that is a strategy that maybe we could try and see if it works. Do a paragraph or a bullet at a time.
Another strategy is to immerse the students. You know, when you are doing languages, Spanish or French or any foreign language, you immerse the students in the language.
Yes.
We can also immerse the students in the theme.
And the City and Guilds provides that.
So
you have the word lists, you have the,
So you find different. I as an external, I have visited Miss Tinglin's school, and I've seen where she actually created source documents on the themes
that's
for
powerful.
her department and such, and
that's
examine the
wonderful.
students.
Yes.
And of course I had to give commendation to the school when I saw that. So she basically got the theme like we all do, and then she created those source documents to give the students a chance that when they come into the real exam, they have an idea what the document will look like. And so each time it is important for us as teachers to remember that it's a scenario-based kind of exam. We create scenarios based on our themes, and we ask the students to write on the scenario, develop the scenario, and they become more comfortable in using the language, become comfortable with the things. So they're not hearing the things for the first time. And I thought that was a very good strategy.
Yes, and the thematic approach allows for that. So they are not frightened in the exam. They don't see something different from what they were studying and preparing for.
And the practice test that you give them should, as I
should
learned,
be in line with the
should
theme.
Ideally. And should mimic the real exam paper.
Yes. And what you could also do, because I know sometimes time is an issue, you could take a portion of the paper. Let us say you have a paper 3, stage 3. There are 3 documents. You could test them on one.
Yes.
In 30 minutes.
Yes.
And that gives you a chance to give them feedback too. So they don't have to get the 3 documents, because pretty much you're testing the same thing. So 1 document at a time. But at some point they'll have to get the entire sample paper before the exam, because at stage 3, you know that there's going to be at least 2 questions that will ask for a comparison. So they'll have to get that skill. They have to be taught that skill. All right. So is there anything else? I mean, we have had a very rich discussion here in terms of how we can empower ourselves and our teachers, and how we can enable our students to do better. We are really hoping that next sitting we will see a marked improvement.
One of the things that I normally try to share with students, because we know that there are cues when answering exam questions. And so you spoke earlier about the end marks. So if they look on the document and they see a capital letter in the middle of the document, look beside that capital letter if there is an end mark. So is there a full stop, a question mark? Because if there's a capital letter in the middle of the document,
and it is not a proper noun,
and it's not, then there is a
likely,
there's a missing end mark. And I find that is a strategy.
And that's a cue. That's a cue.
That's a cue that will work. So those are some of the things that we can teach the students, not just for end marks. So if there's a capital letter and it's not a proper noun, then there's an end mark missing. Read that sentence and see what the end mark should be.
Very good. I think that's a very good.
Very good cue.
Yeah.
Very good.
All right. Do we move on to the other area? I just want us to spend a little bit of time on punctuation and grammar.
Just one last point on the extended writing that I find research.
Oh yes,
it's a very important skill, and it also helps. Again, I start with your area of interest. I have, as I tell you, 99% boys sometimes. So the topic I started is something that you'd want to go look up. Use your device. If your school says, don't let me see it, or there's no rule against it, you can use it because they're going to be using it any way the reality is that their head is down and they're on their device. So after we will talk about whatever the topic, I said, well, we would need to know some more about this. And they're allowed to use their phones.
So it becomes a learning.
It becomes a learning tool for them. And whatever you
Because we don't want to run into any problems with
not at all.
schools that
with
might have
administration.
their
That's why I said, if
But
your school allows it.
Usually when schools have policies re-device, they also have policies that allow the usage of devices.
Okay.
Because even at St. Jago, we do have a policy against devices. But within that policy, there's also a policy that says that once your teacher is going to allow you to use a device,
With the guidance.
you get a
Yes.
pink slip.
Okay.
So
Permission
that
is
permission,
granted.
that pink slip permission is granted. And we do that at St. Jago. and it
Because
works.
we have to, yes, they are good learning tools if
They're
we know
good
how to
learning
use
tools,
them,
right.
and not abuse them.
Yes. So we look at
But
probably
they
fashion.
requires a certain amount of discipline in
Discipline.
terms of how you, yes.
Right. So what I would do is to take an area of fashion that I know would interest them, or ask a provoke thought by maybe a particular kind and article of clothing that they're all going to perk up and look, and the boys visualizing the girls in that, and the girls thinking that they are all of that in that. And I said, but I need to know more on that. You have to capture the
So
interest.
like a boy teacher.
I am, and might I add that my one biological child is a girl. But I love boys, and I try
We
to
might
get
have
their
to use
interest.
you as the boys' ambassador, send you to the schools.
I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right, let us move on now to another tricky area, and I mean this is a perennial problem. Punctuation and grammar. Which one are we starting with? Well, we were talking about punctuation earlier in terms of, but you want us to look at grammar? I mean, some very common areas, subject-verb agreement, yes.
May I just a little
Certainly.
bit,
Yes, Robert,
before we
certainly.
go
Yes.
into grammar, may I just add a little bit on punctuation?
Oh,
What I
certainly.
found working is when you are presenting the students with a passage for a sampling, I would encourage that we start using a different color to highlight our punctuation marks. Because when you look at a board, remember we want to appeal to the visual learners. Because we do say that the students come to us with different learning styles.
Yes,
so
we have to be inclusive in our approach.
Right,
Yeah.
so in catering to that, when the students are supposed to probably copy a passage from the board, what we can appeal to in that visual sense is to have the punctuation marks inserted with a different color from the rest of the passage.
So that the marks will stand out.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Yes,
And
so that's a strategy that could work. Yeah.
And another thing too, we could insist that when they're reading, the voice expression, because when you're coming to a halt with the full stop, we find that you must not sound as if you're about to continue.
Yeah.
So
it's like
when
driving, you
the
can
practice,
press gas
right,
when you should be slowing down. Yeah.
Right. So we could sort of inculcate that habit in our students, and then it may become a part of them.
And this is where also you could incorporate some of the speaking and listening. When they're giving their speeches and so on. If you were writing that, how would it sound? So that they see that, there are interrelationships.
Right. So I just thought of that and thought I would
That's very good.
add that.
Thank you. We're going to wrap up with grammar. We're going to be looking a little at grammar, and then that we'll call it a wrap. Yes, so we have been having this challenge for decades and decades of our students not being able to use the quote-unquote standard language, the required language, the official language, whatever we want to call it. And there are many, many reasons for that. Linguists have written hundreds of books on the standard and the non-standard. In the Jamaican situation, and I suspect in the Caribbean as well, we have a situation where for many of our students, or many of our learners, you think in one language And you're expected to write
in another
and speak on in certain instances in another. And a lot of time is spent trying to translate. And a lot of time seeps into the other. And many times, sometimes even as educators, we say that, oh, they can't talk. And we brand them. And, you know, some of them might feel a little intimidated in certain spaces, so they don't even open their mouths, so they don't speak. And certainly, they don't write. And it's not that they can't write. It's not that they don't have what to write about, but they don't have the skill to do the translation because they are thinking in one and they're expected to create in another. How can we begin? I mean, we won't have all the solutions, but what are some of the things we can do?
I think a big part of that stems from this whole social media and texting and all of that. What I did during COVID is to develop not WhatsApp groups, but Google chat rooms. And so I point out from the very onset that the chat rooms are now extensions of the classroom.
Okay.
So therefore, you are free to ask any question relating to your subject area. However, you must write it
in the standard
language.
Okay.
Your text messages in terms of the shortened version and such will not be accepted.
Because
and I find
that's one of the challenges that we're having.
Right, and I find that students, and then to be honest, sometimes I also teach CSEC, English A. So sometimes when they're preparing for the SBA, they bring that text message into the conversations. And I am one that will come into the class and say, and so many persons go on YouTube every single day and don't even know how to spell YouTube properly. or they don't even know the pronoun, how it is spelled, you from the letter U. You know, I'm not calling any names, you know, but everybody who is guilty will know themselves. And so when you extend your WhatsApp group, or your Google chat room or any of those platforms into an extension of the classroom
and encourage
standard English, because what
they have
I
to
found,
get practice. You have to practice a language.
and the classroom is just does not give you enough time. And what I found is that
they don't practice outside of the classroom.
Exactly. So that's why they have it being in that space with me. You have to practice.
Yeah.
And I found, to be honest, that I wasn't the one correcting them when they came up with the text messages and the short.
They are very great at that. They're very great at that.
Don't you hear that miss said that you're not supposed
Yes.
to? And they write it. Yes. And so because of that, everybody started to text the proper.
Yeah. So what you have done is to create and extend.
Yes.
You have extended that space outside of the classroom to encourage the written use of the standard language, so that they can be a little bit more comfortable doing the exams.
Yes.
And behaving in certain formal spaces.
Yes. And then we have to point out to them too that the written language and the spoken language might not necessarily be the same.
Yeah.
Because how you will write, I don't accept my students to write formally contractions. They have to write out the words.
Right.
So they're not going to come to and say you wouldn't or couldn't or shouldn't. They have to write out the full you should not, you could not.
In the formal sense.
In the formal sense. So they can say it if we're having a conversation.
So they have to know the difference between formal speech and
how it affects the writing.
Yes. All right.
Madam Moderator, if I may, another very good way to practice is that at the Holy Trinity High School we have what is called a vocab day, vocabulary day.
Okay.
So the teacher would decide which day. It used to be vocabulary Friday because you do it according to your timetable is structured. So it couldn't work on a Friday anymore. So it's vocab day where we develop worksheets and like even the subject verb agreement, but you have to write out. They come in sentence forms. If you identify them, then you write. because it's practice. They commonly misuse words. You identify and then you write.
Yes.
So it's writing the sentences now to move into the paragraph, to move into the extended piece, but it starts there.
Yes.
So each week there's a vocabulary day or vocabulary hour.
And that is great, you know, even if they have an hour. We'd love a day, but even if they have an hour, that's a beginning.
No, when I say
Yes,
vocabulary
yes.
day, it's within the language hour.
Yes.
So that
Okay.
session,
Okay.
that's what I meant.
Okay.
Right, vocabulary. Oh, we wouldn't be so lucky to get an entire day. But within your
Well,
language
you can
time,
go
what is
try.
convenient for you,
Yes.
you have vocabulary. And I think I'm going to call it that now, vocabulary hour.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Roberts, you had something to share with us?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Carr. Just a few things I thought of. Because in the minds of our students, very often the concept to them seems to be abstract. And I'm thinking that we can include word games. We have
Games, yes.
We have the synonyms bingo, homonyms bingo.
Yeah.
I took along with me today one of the card games.
Okay.
Do we have time to do a quick demo before we wrap up?
We could. So
Yeah, let us see.
This one is called Go Fishing. I could just hold it up a little. Right. And so it's a card game. Each student gets 3 cards, and this reinforces both sentences as well as subject-verb agreement. Now, if you get 3 cards and they are not matching, meaning they do not make a sentence that is a complete thought,
They
you
go
have to go fishing.
Oh,
right.
Oh, that sounds-
And
that
so,
sounds
right.
excellent.
And so we do have visual aids. And so to reduce the abstract nature, because sometimes all they think, oh, I just come and write. You can
I
have
like that.
the use of language where we allow them even with the vocab day, and also games. Our children, not because they're in the secondary school does not mean that play does not come in.
It's very important. It's important. It's important. It's important for learning.
You are amazed at how they are into the game. And our boys, as Ms. Tingley said, are very competitive.
Yes.
And so for each school that has a reward system at Camperdown, we give merits. And for the first one who is able to get, let us say 3 sentences, they're getting 3 merits, or even a little treat. You know, we know that encouragement sweetens labor. And because the boys, as I said, are competitive, they are eager to see, okay, I'm getting five sentences, and so you encourage them. So they've taken their 3 cards, they go fish to ensure that they're making a proper sentence. There are so many things that we could use. I'm not sure if we have enough.
I don't think we have enough.
But we are interested. They're colorful.
Yes.
And don't say, well, this is grade 11. They need
No,
a
it doesn't matter at all because
right.
yes,
It appeals to them.
Yes.
The bingo too, because if I had taken it, and so you have this subject verb one where they're to identify the verb that would complete a sentence. You have the synonyms, and that is building the grammar.
Of course.
Because when they are writing, they're going to be required. And
building
so
vocabulary.
yes, especially I find if you're having a double session,
Yes.
2 sessions, and so to break the monotony,
Yes.
right? Because English can
and
have
this is
those
actually
days.
reinforcing.
Right.
Yes.
That comes in very handy.
So thank you very much, Ms. Roberts, and thank you, Ms. Tingley. Thank you, Ms. Lindsay. I think we had a whale of a time. I can't speak for anybody else. I know I totally enjoyed this session, and I trust that all our educators and our friends have enjoyed as well. We want to thank you and continue to support City and Guilds. Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Pleasure.
We hope that you enjoyed today's show and learned a lot that you can take back to the classroom. Should you require additional information, please feel free to contact us at the numbers provided below. This video is also available on YouTube to watch at your leisure. Thank you.